Good morning.
Hey, Colin.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Morning. Hey, Colleen. Nope, we lost your own. Good morning.
Good to see you, Colleen. Haven't seen you in a while.
A bit here.
I know.
Just not a small group setting.
I know. How are things over at NCCU?
Trucking along. Last week was spring break. And graduation is the second week in May.
And then do you have a little bit of break after graduation, or do you keep on rolling?
We're I guess 12-month employees, and so the only breaks we get are the ones we decide to take. Yeah, every now and then you just vacation time.
How are you, Jerome and Jason? To see you.
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. No, Sharita is still out. Let's see, where are we in terms of a quorum? We might have a quorum.
We just met quorum with Commissioner Carter.
Oh, Jerome just disappeared. And there's Commissioner Carter. Okay. I think Andrea Harry is supposed to join us. I apologize for a delay on the agenda. We got hit with a major project for the city manager that consumed all of our time last week. So I'm going to drop an agenda in the chat here. And if we don't have a Sharita, we'll just sort of work our way through it. So welcome to everyone. I know that Melissa just sent out several months worth of minutes for meetings going back a while. We're finally getting caught up on all of that. I suspect it would be better to wait and approve those minutes at our next meeting. If everyone's okay with that, let's go ahead and punt on those for a little bit. I see Helen nodding and Jason nodding and Colleen nodding, so I'll take that as a affirmative. We'll approve minutes at our next meeting, get that caught up. I did want to share unsheltered numbers. 29 families by self-report are unsheltered, with 18 of them have children under the age of 5. 64 singles are unsheltered, 17 are medically vulnerable. And by self-report, 34 families and 50 singles are facing homelessness in the next 14 days. So that's where we are in terms of our self-report numbers from coordinated entry. And today our agenda is pretty much going over some data quality standards. So Andrea Carey from NCCH is here. We sent those out last month. And the Performance Management Committee has already approved these based on some feedback from Balance of State. I think Andrea will talk us through those, but want to make sure you have time to hear what they are so that, policy and planning is aware of what's happening with data quality, because it's kind of a macro piece of our puzzle. Then we'll do a quick review of where we are with the home ARP allocation plan, and then need to talk with you about how we can clean up our ESG CV findings from HUD. And I'll need some assistance from the committee on that. So Andrea Carey from NCCH is here with us and can help us to better understand our data quality standards and move for an approval if you're so inclined. So Andrea, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Colin, and happy to be here with you today. I am Andrea Carey. I'm the director of the data center here at the North Carolina Coalition on Homelessness, and we act as your HMIS lead agency. So good to be here. I think this is my first policy and planning subcommittee meeting in maybe a couple of years. So new faces. We put together a proposal for implementation-wide data quality plan that was sent to you earlier. What I mean by that is
Andrea, you're a little bit garbled.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off the video and switch to phone real quick. Apologies about that. Let's see.
Please press 1 to join the meeting. You are in the meeting now.
All right. How's this? Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we proposed a plan across implementation, meaning that this would serve as kind of our data quality foundation for Durham, as well as the two other COCs that share our HMIS system, Orange County, or Orange COC, and the Balance of State COC. So that's one aspect to think about when we're considering these changes in this plan. We are hoping that we can set a foundation for data quality that applies to all 81 counties that use the database. Let me ask how I'm ready to go into as much detail as you would like, but I don't think we want to go into too much detail. What I'd like to do is just kind of review the changes of what this plan does compared to what we have been doing briefly, and then let you all ask any questions or concerns. Does that sound good, just to reestablish what this document was that was sent to you? Okay. So we did send the plan in full. I'm just going to walk us through, or I guess, are there any questions before I start, just to get a sense of how familiar you all are? Okay, we're good to go. All right. So the first thing I want to say about data quality is that it's a journey. We are really trying to aim for this data quality plan to be a constructive process, a consistent process, a tool for improving and maintaining data quality, and that this is a journey that, providers, COCs, and HMIS lead, the data center as HMIS lead, are taking together, and that this is not a one-time check, right? So data is something that changes over time, right? And so there's not a place or a time where we're going to say, oh, we're done, we did it, we've got data quality. So I think that in that same spirit, this plan is something that can evolve over time as well. And this is just really the kind of first formalized plan that we've had in a while. What we've tried to do with this plan is to design it to be better support for agencies with a regular review and correction period of data throughout the year. Right now, what we've done is really an annual push for data quality and correction. So every fall, at the end of the federal fiscal year, the data center reviews data, we ask agencies to submit reports, to make corrections, and then we prepare that data for submission to HUD. That's really hard on both data center staff and agencies themselves. It's difficult to, look at a client record in October for someone that left in January and do anything about it. And so having a better infrastructure for more frequent review would be hopefully supportive for agencies. We also want to make sure that agencies have a chance to review that data before it's, submitted or viewed by the COC. So hopefully this is a way where agencies are not only increasing their own data literacy, increasing that ownership and empowerment over their data, but also making sure that they're putting their best foot forward when this is being, reviewed at the COC level and other leadership levels. We also have really designed this with best practices in mind. These are just a sampling of some of the other communities that have data quality plans. I think some of the most stringent are this county in Ohio has been asking agencies to submit 6 or more reports since 2016 on a monthly basis. And that felt like too much burden to just kind of start with for agencies. So we're proposing less frequently per year and with a little bit more flexibility in the data standards. Those data thresholds, rather, for missing data range amongst these communities from anywhere from 0 to 2% up to 6%. Most of our proposed standards, which are included in the plan, are for 5% missing data. There's a few exceptions depending on project type, but most of it is having less than 5% missing data, or in other words, 95% complete. So we really want to make sure that our plan is in line with other communities and make sure that we have more confidence in the data throughout the year. So knowing that there is a review process that's implemented throughout the year, we will, you as policy and planning would be able to ask for a report and know that data has really been reviewed more recently than just last fall, right? So these are kind of the principles in mind that we wanted to have for proposing that. I also want to just identify there's the standards, right? The thresholds for missing data. And then there's really the process. How do we actually hold our agencies accountable and support folks constructively in that? And this plan is using asking agencies to submit a data quality report for review by the HMIS lead and CSE. That would be available. We also just want to note that there's going to be support for the data for agencies from the data center to do this. So we'll have at the very least one live training available, step-by-step guides, and the opportunity for one-on-one review upon request for agencies. So this would be a new process that we would all learn about and kind of beta test together, and support would definitely be a part of that. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. Then just to keep this high level, I think the thing that has been important for the communities to wrap their minds around has been, what will this actually look like for my year to come? And so that's been the, the frequency and what that submission process looks like. Balance of State looked at this last week and passed the data quality plan, but they passed it with some modifications. So we proposed the plan with a quarterly submission procedure, and Balance of State asked for a 3-time-a-year submission timeline, so trimesters, instead of looking at 3 months of data, 4 months of data. So this is a little bit of a change, but what we're asking, just to keep it in line with the other COCs, is would love to have the data quality plan considered and with these details. So just as an example of how a trimester submission would work, we would submit, since we're already partway through the year, we'd submit the October of 2022 through May of 2023 data at the end of June. And then the next submission would be in October for data through September. And then the following submission would restart the year. So we'd look at October 2023 through the end of January for 30 days after that, which is actually early March. Any questions about this? I know trimesters aren't normally our go-to division of time. So if you have any questions about that, happy to clarify. All right. And then the other item here is just that, we want to make sure that this is well understood to be a new process. And so we would really consider that first submission as a kind of beta testing and encourage COCs not to emphasize enforcement action on that submission, really just trying to learn about the process with agencies. All right. So that is the monitoring and reporting side of the data quality plan before you. I am happy to go over the data standards in more detail if you'd like, or clarify anything else.
Questions from anyone? Not seeing any questions. Do we want to have a motion to approve them as amended?
I make a motion to approve. This is Helen.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All right, second by Jason. All in favor of approving, please vote yay in the chat. All right. Any opposition have the same right? Vote nay in the chat. Looks like everybody, looks like the motion carries either way, so. Righty. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Andrea. You're welcome to stick around if you'd like, or if you need to roll, you can do that as well.
Thank you all very much.
All right. Wanted to share with all of you kind of where we are with the home ARP allocation plan, as that is the next, major thing on our agenda. The home ARP plan, we did our needs public hearing on February 20th about what the needs are in the community. There were a couple comments. 2 public comments came in during the public hearing on February 20th, city council meeting about using the funds for guaranteed income. While that's a great use of money, it's not an eligible expense under the home ARP rules. So not an eligible expense to use the funds. Based on the data and based on the consultation with the continuum of care and the very specific service providers, the overwhelming need in the community is more affordable housing, specifically prioritized for households exiting homelessness. So the plan for the $4.3 million is currently for either new construction to build a minimum of 25 units of 25 units prioritized for households exiting homelessness. We did sort of talk about what it would be like if to use these funds to buy units that are already in existence. But if somebody were to buy units that are in existence, 9 out of 10 times, people are already living in those units, which while preserving units is a great thing to do, it doesn't help us move people out of homelessness into units. So it was thought it was better for new construction. And talking with Matt Walker on the multifamily side, there's a way, and I don't understand it well enough because I'm not a developer. Jason or others may understand it better, but a developer could use the funds to refinance a vacant unit that would allow them to pay off a loan and do the rehab necessary to make them habitable, which would essentially do the same thing as creating 25 new units, but you couldn't refinance an existing property where people are already living. This would be sort of, you've got this building, it needs work. Through refinancing, you'd be able to have the liquid cash to put in to bring the units up to code and develop those 25 or more units, so that by the end of the process, we would have at least 25 units dedicated and being prioritized for households experiencing homelessness. So that's what the plan is for the money as of now. There is a public hearing on the plan March 20th, which is next Monday at the city council meeting. So if any comments come in at that period, they'll be added to the plan. And we will also use that plan, ask the city council to approve the plan at that meeting so that we can get it submitted to HUD on or before March 31st when it's due. So questions or thoughts, concerns?
It's likely that city council will be, they will approve this. They're going to be supportive of this, you think?
I think so. I mean, I can't speak for the city council, but
Of
I mean,
course.
the plan is, we followed the map that HUD asked us to do and consulting with everybody that we had to consult with. And given that it's not very limited, but there's only a few things that you can actually do with the money. Developing affordable housing, acquiring non-congregate shelter, which would be buying a hotel, for instance. At this point, I think there's a pretty good consensus that more affordable housing for under 30% AMI, specifically targeting households experiencing homelessness, is definitely a big need in the community. So I don't anticipate a whole lot of pushback on it.
Well, that sounds good. How about land for the construction of new units? Would the city be using, if this is approved, would the city be using publicly owned land that's currently available, or what do you think about that?
I don't know. I think the first step is getting it submitted to HUD and getting HUD's blessing on the plan so that we can actually use the funds, and then we'll go through some sort of a procurement process to figure out who and where and how to develop it. So I think at this point, anything is on the table as long as it results in at least 25 new units coming online. Could it be, could these funds be leveraged with, tax credits or other funding sources? Maybe. There's a bunch of different ways to look at it and how to use those funds. It doesn't have to be just, $4 million going into one project, because that's how we came up with the 25 units, was if you were only using, this $4 million and maybe a small little loan from a bank. But if you were going to, try and do 100 units, you could do 100 units. You just have to figure out the other sources of financing to make it work.
Okay, I see. Yeah. Interesting possibilities there.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, but we'll move pretty quickly on that because the funds have to be spent by the end of 2030. Morning, Angel. So that's where we are on that. Other thoughts, questions? We may have a short meeting today. All right. We, as I shared at our HSAC meeting last month, went through the, I think I went through the findings of our ESG CV monitoring. And we had 7 findings. And some of these findings are going to require us to update, hold on a second, are going to require us to update various policies and procedures, and either update or create new standardized forms that will be used across the continuum for a variety of things: prevention, emergency shelter, rapid rehousing, etc. We did put together a plan and submitted it to HUD to get the deficiencies corrected. And the timeline that we laid out was going to take a little bit longer than they liked it to be. And part of that was because, to get forms, policies, and procedures approved, we need to go through policy and planning, through HSAC. There's a process we have to go through. So I wanted to talk with you as the Policy and Planning Committee and determine if we would like to be able to approve some of these forms and policies and procedures via an email vote in between meetings. So we're not trying to wait and do these every month, just to keep the process moving. Because it's not just do we have to create or update policies and procedures. Sometimes it's our policy and procedure says this, the feds say this, ours is a little bit more restrictive, which is fine. And sometimes there's a disconnect where we say one thing in one part of the policy and procedure and it says something different in another place. So a lot of it's just cleaning things up and updating forms to make sure that we've got all the right, have consistency throughout the system. So not only do we have to approve all of those, we also have to conduct training for all the COC members and providers of services. And in order to try and get this done on a HUD-approved timeline, would the committee be comfortable approving these policies and procedures via email between meetings so we can kind of move it along? Otherwise, we'll be running out of land, running out of runway. I'd like to discuss or talk that through with you all.
I may have missed it, Colin. What is the timeline that you're working on?
We're meeting with HUD next week to land on the final timeline, but essentially all of this would need to be done no later than September 30th, and probably will need to be done sooner than that, just because of other things that we as the community development team have to do, because we don't want to be doing this in the August, September timeframe, because you got vacations, you've got the HUD NOFO, You got the state ESG application. There's a lot of things that are happening in that spring or fall, late summer, fall timeframe that we don't want to be trying to jam everybody up and trying to do everything at once. So we're trying to, how much of this can we get done by June 30th? I would say would be a good goal, but definitely we need to get it cleaned up by September 30th.
I personally don't have a problem with doing an email vote as long as we get the documents early enough that we actually have time to look them over before the voting deadline.
Sure. So if we sent the documents and said we would like a vote on this, please vote no later than a week later or 10 days later, something along those lines.
I could work with that, but I'm going to speak just for me.
Sure. I mean, I'm just trying to operationalize what that might mean.
Right.
Other thoughts? Heidi says it sounds good. Other thoughts? Jason says he agrees. All right, so we would need a motion.
I just was wondering, is this something where, I know for a lot of things where we have to do group kinds of approval, we put it in either something like a Google form or OneDrive or something where everybody can comment in the same space and you can kind of see the evolution, or it may raise, you know, oh, ideas or questions. Is that something you can do so that we're all kind of feeding into a document?
We can try. Like we can try and put it on our SharePoint. I'm just not sure that the city SharePoint will, if we can create a file that would be accessible to everybody who's not on the city system.
Mm-hmm.
Colin, we have Google Drive.
We put it in a Google Drive. Yeah,
It
I think we
won't-
can
it won't
find.
work on SharePoint.
What's that?
It won't work on SharePoint with external contributors.
Okay, so I think yes, we can get it out there so you can see the comments and edits. The one thing I do want to flag is I think some of the issues that we're having is because we kind of created a lot of these things. Some of our documents go back to like 2019, and then we updated for the ESG CV rules and regs in that document. And I think what we're being advised to do, and we're going to meet with our HUD technical assistance providers to sort of better flush this out, is we may have to have a separate ESG CV set of rules and our regular standard operating procedures. And it sounds like some of the issues HUD is having is because we maybe got a little bit too outside of the HUD parameters of what could be in there. And we allowed a few flexibilities where maybe we shouldn't have, but we're trying to find out exactly where the hiccups are. So it may be one of those things that there'll probably be some room for adjustments, but there's going to be some things that we're just going to have to leave in there. So if we share the document, maybe what we can do is highlight areas that are open for change and leave, and then sort of maybe mark in a different color. Here are things that we can't change because these are fixed regulations. Because what I don't want to do is end up accidentally tripping ourselves up and getting ourselves back in trouble again.
Yeah, regardless, I mean, if we're going to be voting in absence of a meeting, it's almost like having the conversation that we would have in a meeting and give us an opportunity to be able to vote, because we're making an informed kind of decision. So, yeah, regardless, yeah.
Absolutely. We will make sure it gets out there and we show the track changes on documents that we're using. So you can see kind of, here's the current versions that we're using, and you know, putting notes in there so you see exactly what's happening as you read through it. And we'll be able to answer questions as they come up. And we can do that. And I'm sort of throwing this out there as a way to keep things moving. And we may end up, you know, some things may just have to be taken up in a committee. at our next committee meeting. And if we're able to do that, then we'll do that. I just didn't want to get us stuck in a position where, oh no, we got to get things done. You know, approving a form is probably going to be one of the easier things to approve by a vote. And the policies may be something that we just want to walk through in a committee meeting. So it's just sort of making sure we have flexibility to keep a train moving, because there's some policies and procedures that are really relatively straightforward, and forms are definitely straightforward. It's a great suggestion. Thank you, Colleen. And a lot of the objective of this is that we end up with a more equitable system and standard operating procedures. So whatever emergency shelter you are, you're following the same procedures. Whatever rapid rehousing provider you are, you're following a standard set of, these are the standard operating procedures of rapid rehousing in our continuum of care, and trying to get everybody to the same level, so we're not having discrepancies between one agency and this agency, and trying to make sure that everybody, part of it is also on us going back and making sure that our nonprofit partners have their written policies and procedures, and their written policies and procedures are lining up with our written standards. And that was one of the issues, is some of the policies and procedures that our nonprofits have don't line up exactly right with our written standards or HUD standards. And that's something that we're working on doing through our monitoring. Okay. Questions, thoughts? We can definitely share the information. Anybody want to make a motion?
Is it, I move that we offer, well, we have the ability to approve outside of a meeting by email approval of forms, or is that for everything?
We could do forms and straightforward policy and procedures.
Okay, so I move that we vote by email for forms and straightforward procedures for this.
I'll second it. It's Helen.
All right, all in favor, please vote yay in the chat. All right, looks like the motion carries. Right. All right. I think that is all I have on the agenda for today. Other things that you all want to talk about or work through? Or to put on the agenda for our next meeting?
Just to let everyone know, I just wanted to speak about the gaps analysis. We want to thank Lloyd, Melissa for their support in getting us the quantitative data that we needed. And we're looking to have a meeting of the subcommittee to review so that we can present to this committee next month for the April meeting, and then to HSAT at the April meeting. This is a long-awaited gaps analysis. Soon it will be history. No longer looking at gaps analysis, and looking at that, the information that was shared earlier. Is just the timing of it and our ability to be able to do it as volunteers. It's a huge task, but we are going to close that out so that we can move, hopefully with the recommendations that we're making, to do it a different way the next time.
Awesome. Thank you for all of your work on that, Colleen. I know it's been a massive, massive undertaking. I appreciate all of your work and all the people that you've been able to pull in at NCCU to help get it over the finish line. So thank you. It's been a massive, monumental task. All right. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
A second.
And we're adjourning the world's shortest Policy and Planning Committee meeting ever. All right. Thank you all for all your hard work, and glad to see you all back, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
all.
Colin.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a great day.
I'm glad to see Ebony, and she brought extra folk to the meeting.
I know, right?
Yes. Hi,
baby.
Carly.
All right.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Colin, you got a second?
Yeah, you want me to give you a call?
Yeah.
All right, I'll give you a call.
Thanks.